Okay, there we are. Hello. Welcome, everyone who's listening. This is an episode of the podcast, The Unconditioned Life. We talk about everything around health, wellness, relationships, just really living life on your terms. And I am so excited to have here with us today Dr. Val. Dr. Val has an extensive background in training and expertise in a lot of really great topics. So I wanted to bring her to our conversations. And Dr. Val, thank you for giving me your time today. Um, yeah. And I would love if you could just introduce yourself, say a little bit about who you are and what your journey has been so that people can really get a sense of the amazing opportunity we have you here today.
Oh, thank you so much. I think, the first place that I'd love to start is, a little bit about we can go into my training and education, definitely a naturopathic doctor, undergraduate degree in nutrition. But I think really diving into, that kind of how did this journey unfold, I think would be really helpful for people to understand. So I had an undergraduate degree in nutritional sciences from a really great university. And so I was going to go on and do a master's. And at that point in time, my health was compromised. I was feeling like I was exhausted. So I would sleep 10, 12 hours. I'd be up for an hour. I'd have to go back to bed. And I could sleep another 10, 12 hours. And so I went to my medical doctor. My medical doctor did every test underneath the sun. And then she said to me, you know what? Everything's fine. Everything is normal. You're perfectly healthy. This is just stress. Go home and sleep some more. And you can imagine, I'm like, I don't even know how to accomplish sleeping more. Yeah, what do you do? Hook me up to an IV? Like, that's just not possible. So on the advice of my aunt, actually, she said, I've got a naturopath. Why don't you go see my naturopath? I was like, okay, I've got nothing left to lose. And I went to see the naturopath, and the naturopath said to me, it's your diet. And you can imagine how shocked I was. I have an undergraduate degree in nutritional sciences from this spectacular university. Like, this is a really great university. What's going on? And so sure enough, it was food sensitivities. I was allergic to life. And
Uh,
so as soon as we took out those foods and as soon as we started to work with a little bit of rebuilding my body through nutrition, my health turned around like that. And so what ended up happening at that point in time is I ended up just saying, okay, my medical doctor is amazing. Top of her game. She was great at what she did. She did everything, but you guys had secret knowledge. So I wanted to know what the naturopaths knew. I'm like, you guys have secret knowledge. I want to know what you know.
mm-hmm.
So it became this big quest for knowledge. So that started my journey. I went to the naturopathic college, became a naturopathic doctor. Then I got out in practice, and I don't know if you know what it's like. Well, I'm sure you do. Well, first of all, when you first graduate, you think you know everything, which I kind of like got that kind of sort of experience out of me. But then you think, I'm going to save the world because now I've got all the secret knowledge, and I'm going to help so many people. And if they just do this, and I'd have these extensive protocols that were so researched, and I got into practice. I'm like, here it goes, and then my patients were like, okay, I can't do this. And I was like, what? And so then what ended up happening was like, okay, now I'm on a quest for more knowledge. And so I started looking into the mind, body, spirit connection.
Mm.
So I ended up looking into hypnosis. I became certified as a hypnosis instructor. I ended up becoming a yoga instructor and really studying Ayurvedic medicine. I went to China and studied at a teaching hospital there and learned about traditional Asian medicine and traditional Chinese medicine from the perspective of food and nutrition, but also from the herbal perspective. I deepened my knowledge in that and acupuncture. And so I just went on this journey of traveling the world and studying different forms of healing medicine, that mind, body, spirit connection from so many different angles. And then once I did that, then I was like, okay, now I want to give back to my community. So I started teaching. I taught at the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition. I taught at the Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine. And then I got to this certain point where I was like, okay, I've done the teaching. I've done the, I've learned all this knowledge. I've taught all this knowledge. Now what? And so that brings me to my journey here. I've been in practice now for 24 years, and I have this amazing practice. But now I'm able to take it out into the world, and I want to get it out in the world in a very different way. And so I'm so grateful to be here, because a big part of what I want to do is I want to let you know that 90% of the information about nutrition out there is wrong.
Mm.
And so I'm also here to tell you, with respect to health, you can't listen to, there's a lot of health, quote unquote, experts out there, but there's no one right way that is right for every human being. It's now about individualizing it and having a team approach.
Yeah, I love that. First of all, people listening, can you believe we have Dr. Val today? Like, what an amazing resource. Seriously, you're very much like me in like, okay, what's next? What else do I need to learn? Okay, there's still a missing piece. Where am I going to find that puzzle? I totally relate to that mindset and that drive. And you've done some amazing things. But also, I want folks listening to really hear that last piece of information that Dr. Val just said, because people will say, this is the way. You've got keto's the way. No, vegan is the way. No, this is the way. And we're all different. Understanding your bio individuality.
Yes.
Understanding that the experiences that you've lived have shaped your biochemistry, and then how you're going to respond to anything is critical. And putting the pieces together, which you said a couple steps back, was the mind, body, spirit, which is where my journey went of like, I kept learning information and I kept implementing for my body, but I wasn't connecting my spirit. I wasn't connecting my emotions and how they all came together. So we've kind of come to very similar conclusions in our own journeys, just like with food. It's going to be your own journey, your own body that's going to tell you what's right for you. And then people like Dr. Val can really guide you through that process, which is why this conversation I'm so grateful to have. Yeah.
Well, me too. And what I think is so fun about your experience is that it's so similar to mine in the way that, we had these, and throughout my life, I've had these instances where my health has suffered. And because of that, I've implemented these stages. I've gone on this healing journey. And the knowledge that I've learned about myself as I've applied it to myself was so critical for helping me to serve the world. And I'll give you further examples of that, because it didn't stop with just the food sensitivity. It didn't be like, okay, I became a naturopath, the end.
Right.
I went into this period of stress around the time that I was in 35. And I hit that period of such intense stress that my hormones shifted and my menstrual cycle stopped for 2 years. Now, I don't know if anybody has experienced this, but there's a condition called polycystic ovaries that can develop in women when they're under stress. And that's exactly what happened to me. So my menstrual cycle just stopped, gone. And it was one of those things where at 35, you're like, what, am I going into menopause?
Right.
And I wasn't. It was the stress that contributed to that. So then what ended up happening is, as I went on my journey, I started doing some healing work to heal myself. And then I was able to kind of carry that in to understand the hormone balance better, which then when I got into my late 40s and my hormones started shifting, well, then it was like, oh, okay, now I know what to do about this. So my hormones started shifting and I had the typical weight gain. And I know a lot of women will go, oh, well, you're supposed to gain weight around that time. It's perimenopause, it's menopause. That doesn't have to happen. I'm here to tell you, menopausal symptoms happen because your body's out of balance. But you don't have to have those types of symptoms. So the healing work that I did and the journey that I went on at that particular point in time really ended up allowing me to help serve other people. And then again, like now that I'm, over the age of 50, anti-aging is everything. And you can believe that I've researched the poop out of that one.
Yes, I do believe it.
Yeah, exactly. So there's so many things that you have these experiences that just can become these positive learning and knowledge quests that can allow you to then go out and help and serve others. And I know your journey has been the exact same way.
Yeah, I just was thinking about that, my journey, and I haven't maybe spoken about this with my audience in a while. I mean, every so often I say I had my health issues, but it was very similar to yours in that My undergraduate degree was adult fitness. I have a master's in exercise physiology. I wanted to do nutrition, but those chemistry courses made me change my mind. So kudos to you. A lot of chemistry. And I was like, But I was so in love with wellness and health in my early 20s. And then I was really sick. I was really sick. For me, it started with ulcerative colitis. That was my first autoimmune diagnosis. I was 21 years old and was like, oh, how did this show up? So, okay, I work on that. And I have to say, my belly after that never really was the same. I did not never for many years was not the same. I did overcome the colitis flare-ups, but I continued to have gut issues because you only put one piece of the puzzle in place. So then there was then I got Lyme disease. Then there was the first thyroid autoimmune condition. And a lot of people feel that Lyme can fall under an autoimmune condition. So I include that. So it was very much like I was a personal trainer then, purely a personal trainer, going to people's houses. I did high-end training for people who paid a lot of money. And I would pull into their driveway and go, okay, before I go in, I just got to put my head back for 5 minutes. And I would wake up in their driveway 30 minutes later, like with drool coming out of like I fell asleep in their driveway during their appointment. That doesn't work too well. You can't keep doing that. So it was like, what else? And I kept going to doctors. And just like you, I went back to school because I wasn't getting a lot more than you need this prescription. Oh, you have migraine headaches. Here's your prescription. Oh, you have thyroid. Here's your prescription. So I wanted something else than the next diagnosis and the next prescription.
Yeah.
So it is very similar. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I was really fortunate in that the medical doctor that I had, she was just amazing. And maybe it was because she was from India. So she had, I think she had a lot of experience with homeopathy anyways. So she never tried to prescribe me any medication. She did a lot of the blood work, but then she was like, there's nothing wrong with you. So there's nothing I can even give you, which was a blessing in disguise. But I understand, and you're right, when you're not feeling well and your body's out of balance and out of alignment, you almost want the diagnosis because you just want something done about it. You want to know what it is. And that's why I love what you were saying too about how, we were talking about how your body is constantly changing and what's right for one person isn't right for another person. But what I really got to see and understand is that what is right at one stage of your own life isn't necessarily right at other stages. So, for example, for part of my early learning experiences, I was vegetarian for probably about 10 or 12 years. But then my body, its biochemistry shifted and I needed more protein. Yeah. So, and then, again, it shifted again and I needed more protein. So more of a vegetarian, or what some people would call flexitarian, worked well. And then there was another stage in my life for a while that my body craved and needed and required meat, like red meat. And so you think that, that shouldn't happen, but it does. And it really depends on the biochemistry. So my passion now, I work with a lot of CEOs. I work with a lot of elite athletes. And especially I love working with women who are high performers. So CEOs or MEOs, like the moms who do like just everything for everybody, have the kids that they're just, and the careers and, just the masters of their entire family's universe. I love working with those women because they're high performers. And for women, our body's biochemistry can go out of balance really quickly, a lot quicker than men when we're trying to perform and if we're not fueling and feeding and caring and nurturing for it properly. So I have the good fortune that I love biochemistry and I speak biochemistry. And so I'm addicted to data. So a lot of the testing, the deeper dive, the genetic testing, and the different types of blood and saliva and urine testing, that what we call functional medicine testing, that dives down into the deep part of the cellular health, the biochemical health, the immune system, looking at, you and I were talking before about, food sensitivities and intolerances, looking at those aspects. I love combining all of that data, and it gives me this wonderful viewpoint of each individual and how they're their own universe and how everything is working. And then we can work to bring things into alignment and balance anything that's off balance hormonally, from immune system wise, cellular health wise. And then once we get you to maximum health, then we can look at what's your genetic potential. We can support and prevent any type of disease process that is potentially coming down the pipe. We can know the percentages of carbohydrates, fats, proteins, how you should be eating, if the Mediterranean way of eating is going to be better for you, if keto is going to be better for you, if plant-based is going to be better for you. You can really get this beautiful picture of who someone is in terms of their own, biological and genetic, physical, mental health, and spiritual wise being.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And the piece that I was thinking about as you were talking about that is how the nervous system has such a huge role in that biochemistry. Because your nervous system, this is how I think of it, your nervous system is sort of like the master controller. What the nervous system is doing is going to tell the immune system, turn off or keep doing your job. It's going to tell the hormones, what hormones you need to pay attention to. And then that's how they can get out of balance. So the nervous system is so important. And that's what I've decided to focus on as my one really deep dive area with people is the nervous system and how we handle stress. Stress is whether your nervous system is staying in a rested place, allowing your body to do what it needs to do, or whether the nervous system is staying in a stressed place, a fight or flight response, either because of what's going on in the moment or because of what you've held in your body that never had the opportunity to move through. So really optimizing your nervous system and how you see yourself and how to get that back into rest is such a beautiful partnership with everything that you just talked about, because now you can allow, if somebody like Dr. Val gets that information, your genetic information, your biochemistry, okay, how are we going to optimize or allow that to really go in the best direction? Well, we want the nervous system to be doing its job and allowing you to be in a calm state so that we can optimize that information.
And this is where I think the team approach, I love a team approach. And the work that you're doing is so needed in this world right now, because here's my experience of what happens when women women have COVID. So a lot of people are getting exposed to COVID, and COVID has been, in terms of its viral infection, has been changing and shifting and mutating, and its effect on the body and how it shows up and the symptoms people experience has shifted as a result of that. Well, what we're seeing now with this variant is that it is affecting the central, it always has, it's affected the central nervous system. And we're seeing inflammation happening in the brain, and that's affecting your thoughts, your neurotransmitters, your moods. It's affecting how the mitochondria are able to function. So your health, your energy, the battery of the cells, now the energy in the brain is being affected. So all of your hormones are going out of balance as a result of that. So a lot of the times, with respect to those symptoms that we're calling quote unquote long COVID, some people don't like that name long COVID. They're saying when you have a viral infection, there can be stuff that happens afterwards. So this is just some of the stuff that happens afterwards. But if you've been through that experience where you've had long COVID, some of the experiences can be brain fog, fatigue. You can't really think clearly, and your emotions go off really, really, really quickly. And the hormones can go off balance too. So if you're having a challenge thinking and concentrating, and there's an attack on the brain, on the neurons that run through the brain, which is what we're seeing, all of that old trauma experience is going to be coming flush to the surface. So are you going to need to do something to help in terms of healing the brain tissue, getting the brain firing better, helping in terms of supporting decreasing inflammation in the body, all of those sorts of things that we would do? Yes, absolutely. But what you're talking about in terms of the trauma response, that's all going to flush to the surface too. So you absolutely need someone to step into that space and say, hey, I've got this. while you're doing this healing. Let's use this as an opportunity to move through this and bring you back into better alignment.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And inflammation, I don't know that people really understand that stress causes inflammation. It's not just chemicals that you might be exposed to. It's not just a virus that inflames you. Inflammation can be a chronic response to stress because it's the same message, whether it's emotional stress or stress from other sources. The same message is there. We have a problem. We have a problem, Houston. Keep sending out those, those cells that try to, take care of the problem. And those cytokines, I think the cytokine storm was a big problem during COVID, right? People were mounting an inflammatory response, which is appropriate, but then their bodies didn't know how to turn it down. And
Exactly.
I believe that's because they always lived in a state of stress. There was no turning down. The body doesn't even remember how to do that when you've been holding stress for years and years from past experiences.
You're exactly right. That's exactly what we see. So you're having these symptoms that make it look like there's flare-ups, right? That it goes up and down, and that the symptoms are coming back. And you think, oh, is the virus still here? No, the virus is gone. But the flare-ups are happening because, you're in that chronic fight or flight mode, and that inflammation is there, and the stress response is there. So you get the cytokine storm. All of that happens.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That is like an ongoing concern for many people out there. So that was a great place to take the conversation, I think. Another thing that I think really people would love to hear about, and what we talked about a little bit before we went live, which is getting your sexy back. Right? Like, I don't know, I'm up for that. I don't know if anybody else listening, but sometimes you hit 40 and you've been tired, or you've had health issues, or your body hasn't responded, and you just think, is that part of my life done and gone? Is it over for me?
Yeah.
So can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. That is my joy and pleasure. So, because I've been through that experience.
Yeah.
So when I hit 47, I started to experience those shifts, and I started to gain a little bit of weight. And I was like, okay, this weight is coming on. So I did what every normal human being would do, especially females of a certain age who have been taught that, like this calorie in, calorie out model is real. It's not. So that's the short answer. But I went to someone that I trusted very much. And he was a student of mine from the nutrition school, who was a professional bodybuilder and, knew about nutrition and, had the results and dealt with a lot of athletes and put people on stage and really experienced, and I really trusted this guy, and his knowledge is impeccable. I still trust him. Like there's no lack of trust there. But I said, okay, listen, let's just work together. So he sent me the exercises, he sent me the food program, and I was following it, and nothing. I would lose maybe 5 pounds, and then it would come back on, or I would just stall out. Exactly. And I would be having these conversations with him, and I'd be sending pictures and saying this is just, it's not budging. And he's like, I don't know what to tell you, because I know who you are, and I know you're doing what I'm telling you to do. That's the thing. I get it. Now, a lot of people don't have the benefit of having someone who's that loving in their corner, and they have someone who doesn't really know them very well and goes, well, you must not be doing what I'm telling you to do, otherwise it would be working, right? So I was fortunate in that I had someone so loving and supportive in my corner. And basically what ended up happening was I said to him, hey, I'm going to do some research. I'm going to go on a little journey, and let's see if we can figure this out together. He was like, I got nothing, so let's go. And so what I ended up doing was I ended up starting to do some research. And the way that I was eating around my 30s to really rebalance the hormones and help heal the polycystic ovaries, that kind of kept coming up. And what kept coming up was I had to eat more and exercise less. And so I was like, okay, so I'm only going to be in the gym 2 days of the week. And I'm going to start eating more, but eating very specific for balancing out my hormones. And as soon as I did that, my body shifted. And I was like, I don't get this. I was like, then I was like, I want to see what this sucker can do. This is me. I'm like, okay. So I thought I had a body that was a Volvo. It turns out it's a Ferrari. I want to now take this sucker out on the Autobahn and find out, like, what can I do? So just by that way of eating and focusing more on stress relief, and relaxation, I actually was able to get down to 14% body fat. And my menstrual cycle stayed, it didn't stop. So one of the things that happens with women is if you lose weight in the wrong way, or if you lose weight too fast, it sends the body into a stress response. So quite often women who are elite athletes or fitness competitors, when they get into those leaner body fat percentages, 14% or below, they lose their menstrual cycle. That happened for me because I lost it in a way that was gentle and sustainable. I wasn't starving myself. I wasn't counting calories. I wasn't bulking it out in the gym. I was relaxing and just eating the foods that my body wanted and nourishing my body and giving it what it wanted. And it was more about, okay, I stopped counting calories and I started looking at cortisol. We need to rest, relax, fuel, regenerate. And that made all the difference. So then fast forward a little bit. So I got down to 14% body fat, but later on I discovered that you can do genetic testing to find out, how you should be exercising your body and what your, potential is in terms of absorption and utilization of vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, and all these fun things that you can explore with genetics. And so I'm like, I want to know. So now here's the game changer. I get this genetic testing back. And in my mind, I have always known that I've always loved weights. So I like lifting weights. Anything that has to do with, power, strength, great. I love it. I always had in my mind, I'm not a runner. I will. And I even told my personal trainer at 47, and he was like, okay, I want you to do this, 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 and this. I'm like, okay, I will do any exercise you tell me except running. My body hates it. I hate it. I won't do it. You can tell me Stairmaster, treadmill, like whatever you want to do. I don't, rowing, biking, whatever it is, that's fine. Cardio's on the table, except for running. So I get my genetic testing back. Well, what does it say? Okay, so we look at power and strength, and you can look at your genetic testing for endurance. You can be average, like typical. You can be enhanced, or you can be ultra, right? Power and strength, turns out I'm ultra. Well, no wonder I love it. I'm like, that's not a shocker. Now, what was the shocker is that endurance, I was enhanced. I was like, what? There's a gift here in my genetics that I didn't even know that I was capable of.
Wow.
Now it became mind blown. So now it's not just about how do we get our sexy back in terms of balancing out the hormones and, getting into like the best health, shape, and fitness of our life. Because there's that one thing that I was able to kind of do at 47. But now it's about, I didn't even know what was possible and what I was capable of. So it was around that point. And then, of course, meeting David Thunder. I don't know if you've introduced him to the community, but
no, I haven't.
Oh, okay. But it was like, okay, now it's time to start training for a half marathon.
Awesome. I love that. I love how you said, I thought I was a Volvo. Turns out I was a Ferrari. Like just the mental visualization is pretty powerful. And then also really understanding anybody who knows anything about cars, like you need to put different gas into a Ferrari than you would put into a Volvo or other cars, right? So, I'm not a big car person, but I do know that, right? Like the different kind, when you pull up to the pump, like you make a decision on the kind of gas you're going to put in, and certain cars really require certain gas. So that was a great visual and so important. And I love that you found out. So when you say though, endurance, you were high for endurance, does it have to be running, or could it be, and it could be anything that's endurance like? So if you don't really love running, it doesn't mean you have to go now be a runner, but your body will be able to withstand, let's say swimming. Okay, got it.
Yeah. But for me, endurance, it was kind of like, I didn't know that was a possibility for me. So then the conversation became around, oh, wait a minute, what have I been able to do this whole time, but I've been stopping myself from doing because of my beliefs?
Yes.
And that I'm like, okay, if there's a belief that is stopping me from running, where else is it stopping me in my life?
Yeah. I love that you brought that up, because beliefs is so much the work that I do. Dr. Val and I actually just spent a weekend together in a workshop. And so there was a lot of conversation about beliefs as well there. And that's just behind, I think, all the work that we do. Is everything that you see in your life, in your world, first comes from beliefs that you hold. So anything that you want to change, like around health, if you don't believe you can get better, it really doesn't matter what you implement. You will always find a way to slide back down, because your belief is, I can't really get better. So we always want to start there. What am I really believing about this issue, whatever the issue is? And if you believe you do have an opportunity to feel sexy again, to bring it back to what we we're talking about, right? If you do believe that, you know what, I'm in my 50s or 60s or more, and I can actually still shift my body. And listen, if even one person has done it, it's possible. If even one, even if nobody's done it, why can't you be the first, right? Who do I sound like, Mark? But even if no one's done it, you could be the first. But if you can even find one example of anyone who's ever, like, say, been your age and gotten their sexy back, meaning gotten a body back that they feel good living in, that they feel good sharing with someone, that allows them the confidence when they walk into the room. People see a confident body walking into the room, whatever that body looks like, they feel good in it. And the confidence is what's sexy, right? That's what people want to be around more. And so if having a leaner body is what makes you feel confident, great. But just having energy in your body makes you, for me anyway, when I felt exhausted, I didn't feel confident. I didn't even think I could make it through the day. So I didn't want to show up a lot of times. So our health really can impact how we feel about ourselves mentally and emotionally. So are your beliefs such that you believe you can get that back, even if you have not yet? Okay, you didn't yet, but the possibility is there. The gift is there. That's what Dr. Val is saying. It's really a gift to understand your biochemistry, your genetics, that you change throughout the course of a lifetime. I thought of that too before when you said that. You know, for a long time, I was like expecting my 50 plus body to do what my 20-year-old body did. That was the gauge and the standard that I had. That's what exercise looks like. And then when I couldn't do it, or it didn't give me the same results, I made myself wrong.
Yes.
So, and then that feeds into your beliefs, right? So really having somebody who, like you said, the gentleman in your corner who lovingly listened to you, because that's validating. Just like going to a doctor and the doctor saying nothing's wrong, everything's fine, feels invalidating, right? I think the way you said it was, your doctor said, I can't find anything, but she didn't invalidate what you were feeling, what your experience was.
Yeah.
She just said, I can't find, given my set of tools and what I know to look for, I can't find anything that I can address with you.
Yeah.
So when someone validates and holds the space for and lovingly responds, then you're like, okay, I'm not crazy. Okay, there's still possibility for me. Okay, I just need to keep looking. It's just yet I haven't found it. All of those things. And that's, I think, a really big piece too, that the work that I do with my clients is trying to give them that space and that feedback and that experience of, it doesn't have to be the way you think. Let me help you create something different. But you have to believe it first, that it's possible.
Yeah, and this is where we're set up for failure because, 90% of the health information that's out there is wrong. And most people have this belief that as they age, it means that they should be achy, they should have pains. It means their body at 60 can't perform like they were when they were 20. And let me tell you, my body at 47, when I dialed in everything that it needed for its nurturing and care, performed better than I did when I was 20. I looked better in my 40s than I did when I was in my 20s. I'm like, I'm not going back. And
Yeah.
when I've looked at different types of studies, and specifically I was looking at endurance, and I was looking at, where what I perceive my greatest weakness is, which is going to be like the running, the marathons. When I looked at people and when they studied them in terms of running in their 20s versus running in their 60s, and the change in the time that it would take to run a marathon, the difference was only by about 30 to 60 seconds.
Wow.
So if we actually kept up with our training, if we actually trained in a way where we were doing the exercises correctly, because that's a big part of it too. So we weren't creating injury. If we were feeding our body and fueling it properly and had the mindset dialed in the community around us, what we would actually achieve would be incredible. But what happens is, and I've seen this happen so many times, I've had people who are in their 30s who are coming to see me. They went to see their doctor and they said, I've got this knee pain, or, I've got this health condition. And they said, oh, I'm feeling tired. Oh, you're just aging. It's just part of aging. And so many people will say, oh, well, I'm in my 40s, so I should be perimenopausal now, right? Or, oh, I'm gaining some weight. But that happens to everybody. It's like, okay, that's a common experience, but it's not normal.
Right.
And really dialing it in and saying, okay, what is actually possible? I'm going to tell you that if you look at what is average out there, what is common, that is not normal, because in North America, 72% of adults are overweight or obese.
Yes.
72%. That means it is more common to be overweight or obese than it is to be a healthy weight. Now, if you fall into that category, first of all, it's not your fault because you don't have the information. You just
Right.
And where are you going to get it? Because I've seen so many, quote unquote experts and studies where it's a complete lie. And so it's happening in every single industry. So you got to be really cautious about that. You are being set up through the food industry as well, through the lack of nutrition in the foods, through the types of pesticides, through the chemicals that are in there, through how they actually use combine the food products to addict you to them. You're being set up for failure at every single turn. So it's not your fault if you happen to be overweight or obese. But what I will say is, because it's such a common experience now, people are normalizing it, and we're not seeing when we ourselves are overweight or obese, because we're looking at everybody else and going, oh, well, compared to those people, I look
Right.
good.
Right.
Or,
Right.
oh, it's aging. It's supposed to happen. It's okay. Quit normalizing it. Let's grab your best life.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And a couple of things to help people really see what Dr. Val is saying. If you rewind the clock to the 1950s, let's say, before a lot of processed foods were, people weren't grabbing stuff off the shelf, popping them in the microwave and eating, or grabbing stuff on the way to kids' practices. It was a different lifestyle. And people ate different kinds of foods, because the lifestyle allowed for home cooking, and that's just what people did. And B, the food industry had not yet gone that way of adding all these additives. And when I first went back to school and to become an integrative health coach, that was my first experience with Dr. Mark Hyman.
I love him.
Yeah, he was one of the, he was on the faculty. He did 3 lectures, if I'm remembering correctly, and it was mind-blowing to me. This was 12 years ago, I think, or more, but what he was talking about, maybe 14 years ago now, he was talking about the food industry and what is purposely put in it so that you want more of that, and the processing is just depleting the nutrients. Then you also look at, going backwards, before we used pesticides like glyphosate, and how that has just, Dr. Zach Bush is somebody else that people might want to follow. I don't know if you know him, but he talks a lot about the earth and the dirt and what we're losing in our nutrients. So right there, go back in time, but also look around to different parts of the world, the blue zones. If you've ever heard of the blue zones, you can see people. So if you haven't, blue zones are areas of the world. I think there's 8 of them, 7 or 8, where people, because of the way they live and the way that they eat, because that's what they've studied. What are the commonalities? Because they're different parts of the world. So it's different cultures. It's not even necessarily the same diet, but the people are living longer, into their hundreds, oftentimes, continuing to be functioning, having jobs, moving around. So the quality of life, they're not like from 75 to 100 sitting in a chair and complaining of pain and can hardly move and needing help. No, they are vibrant parts of their communities. They are still continuing to do work. So it's the longevity, the quality of life as they live longer. Their body doesn't hold weight the way the other parts of the world do. So when you look at those, or go back in time to our culture before a lot of these things changed, you can really see how the human body wants to live. The body wants to feel good. The body wants to move. The body wants to connect and feel sexy. The body wants to not hold extra weight because that's stressful for the body. There was, I can't think of her name now, but another lecturer in that program talked about how, I think she was from Australia. She had been a marathon runner and ran for like a year. And she started doing that in order to lose weight. She got into running in order to lose weight. And she was averaging, 18 miles a week. And then when the marathon time was coming, was bumping it up. And I think she lost like a half a pound in a year of running.
Yeah.
And then after the marathon, she was like, okay, fine. I did the marathon. I killed myself all year. I lost like a half a pound. She went into Tai Chi. She stopped running. She goes, when I picked up Tai Chi, it was only a matter of a few months where my body just started to, I felt better. I was happier. And the weight came off. She's like, if I had known I could have done Tai Chi rather than run my ass off for a year, I would have done the Tai Chi. But her body, right, different than anybody else's, that's her unique body, responded to the lower levels. And she was a woman at whatever age she was at when that happened. So understanding all of those pieces, I think, is exactly what you're speaking to.
Absolutely. And, in terms of, some of the other causes of why you have so many different areas where you need to look at and address if you really want to get in optimum health and get your sexy back. We all hear about the gut microbiome, how important good gut bacteria is. Well, just to your point, talking about the soil, what we don't realize is that there's actually bacteria in the soil that are kind of like the gut microbiome for the plants. They help the plants digest and absorb nutrients. And the soils that we have nowadays, because of modern farming practices, we don't have the bacteria in them anymore. So there's so much that is setting us up for being overfed and undernourished. So for most of us, even though we have all of these quote unquote calories, we have all of this food, we're not getting nourishment from it. And that sets us up for this starvation mode. And that sets us up for a disease process and feeling low energy and gaining the weight and just not feeling sexy, having our, estrogen, testosterone, progesterone levels all drop and go out of balance. So those are a lot of the things that we want to take a look at and really examine. But if you're in that state where you just have lost your mojo, you don't have the motivation, you're feeling overwhelmed, you don't have the concentration, maybe you've gained weight, maybe you're too thin, maybe you've lost a whole bunch of weight, maybe you're feeling demineralized, whether you're feeling like you're depleted, whatever that is, you don't have to feel that way. Your body was designed and built to have energy and be vibrant and still have incredible amount of passion and mojo and like there's that passion for life. So don't settle.
Yeah. Yes. If you could take away anything from this conversation, and I hope we get an opportunity to do more conversations in the future because we love what we talk about. I hope you do too. But that would be really a great thing to take away is if you want something different, it's absolutely possible. You just need to put all these tools together. And with keeping that in mind, Dr. Val, how can people find you, reach out to you? I'm going to post it right now in a comment, and I'm also going to go back where this is playing and make sure people know I want to talk to Dr. Val. How do I do that?
Sure. I have a website, so I'm easy to find that way. It's www.drvalfrank.com, and doctor is DR, not the full doctor, but DR, valfrank.com, and Frank is Franc. And so you can get a hold of me there. You can book a fireside chat. It's complimentary. There's no charge for that. We can just chat and talk about, anything that you want to talk about, your health. And I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. So you can connect with me there. LinkedIn and Facebook is Dr. Val ND. And LinkedIn is Dr. Val Frank ND.
So LinkedIn and Facebook is Dr. Val MD.
ND, naturopathic doctor.
Oh, that's right, ND. And what was the other one then?
Instagram and Facebook are Dr. Val, at Dr. Val ND.
Okay, at Dr. Val ND. Okay, great. So at Dr. Val. So there's no period between Dr. and Val, right?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, at Dr. Val ND.
Wonderful.
Awesome. So if anybody listening, and this again is an episode of my podcast called The Unconditioned Life, which is really learning about how you've been conditioned, your beliefs, the experiences that have happened to you, how they've gotten you to this point, and what you could do to change something going forward. So this will be an episode in that podcast, The Unconditioned Life, but I'll make sure everywhere that this is playing, it's on YouTube, it's in all the social media. I'll make sure that Dr. Val knows if you've asked any questions. I'll forward them to her, but you can also reach her at those places that she just mentioned. Okay? Awesome. Anything else you wanted to say before we head on out?
I'm just so honored, blessed, and grateful to be here and to have had the opportunity to connect with you and to everybody listening. And thanks again. And I'm looking forward to staying connected and hearing about your journey and getting to know you better.
Yeah, wonderful. We're very blessed and grateful to have you here too, and have your wealth of knowledge and all of your journey experiences. So thank you. I'm sure we'll see you again. And please drop any questions that you have. If you're watching this replay later, it doesn't matter. I will go back or reach out to Dr. Val directly in the ways that we just mentioned. Okay. Have a great day.